Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. That's better. So my name's Greg, and I'm the grief counselor at TMC Hospice in Pepe's house. One of my colleagues, Cheryl, before we got started, said to me that she was here at the Celebration of Life last year, remembering and honoring a family member of hers that had passed away with the support of TMC Hospice. And she asked me to note what a sacred space this is that we've gathered in. And that's true. But I would add further that it's sacred because you're here. So if you're following along on the program, you may have noted that my segment is called Reflections on the Interconnected Nature of Things. And I have to admit that when I was preparing this talk, I initially thought that maybe I should have chosen a less ambitious topic. But then I realized that I would be reminding you of things the deepest and wisest part of you already knows. And it got a lot easier after that. So early in my career, I was a family therapist. The family therapist understands that everyone in a family is interconnected. And who we are and how we behave is determined by the network of emotionally significant relationships in which we are a part. Peggy Papp, an early pioneer of family therapy, wrote a book called The Invisible Web. The title is an analogy that speaks to how humans are interconnected and interdependent. All mothers in the room know this. You can feel connected to your child no matter how great the distance or how long the time. Another leader of the family therapy movement, Murray Bowen, broadened this notion of the invisible web to include the powerful influence of prior generations on an individual's attitudes and behaviors. Each of you is part of an invisible web that is wide, deep, and potent. When we look at a tree, we never forget it is rooted in the earth. We, humans, are vulnerable to feeling detached, adrift, and disconnected. We forget that, like the tree, we too are rooted to each other, the earth, and the universe. About 20 years ago, my wife, Nikki, and my son, Jacob, and I went on a retreat to Plum Village. Plum Village is a monastery in southern France, and it was established by Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh after he was exiled from Vietnam for anti-war activity. We went there seeking respite from our crazy life, an opportunity to look inward with the support of the monastic community and to receive teachings from Thich Nhat Hanh. I want to share with you, as best I can, a teaching Thai gave during the retreat that I've returned to over and over again. When you look at this sheet of paper, what do you see? You may notice the color, the shape, its thinness. However, if you look deeply, you will see the sun, you will see the clouds and the rain, the nutrients from the soil. You might also see the lumberjack and the people that worked in the paper mill. The sheet of paper depends for its existence on the sun, the clouds, the rain, the earth, and many other non-paper elements. Without any one of these elements, the sheet of paper would not be possible. We are the same. When I look in the mirror, I see an aging person. There's more sagging. There's less hair where I want it and more hair where I don't. Sometimes I hardly recognize myself. When I look deeply into that mirror, I see a body that is aging, but I also see that there is a part of me that is timeless. When we hear the expression that he or she is young at heart, I think this is what we are noticing, that the exterior ages, but the inside does not. When I look deeply into myself, I see all those people who have contributed to making me this person. All the people I depend on to exist in my particular way. I see my wife. I see my son. I also see my mother and my father. I see all my ancestors. And if I squint, I can see my descendants too. When I was a young man, I was a social worker in a treatment center for young boys and girls. One young girl was a particular terror. She was adopted, and her adopted parents had placed her in the treatment center because they no longer knew how to manage her difficult and angry behavior. Once, when I sat with her in a therapy session, she was unusually forthcoming. She said she was angry because she would never know her birth parents. She looked defeated and declared, "I will never know who I am." Acting on instinct, I said, "If you get to know yourself, I mean really get to know yourself, you will know your parents too. They're there." Well, any of you that know me very well know that I can kind of prone to be philosophical. So let's actually take this out of the realm of the abstract into the realm of our direct experience. So I invite you to sit back in your chair and close your eyes, or keep them open if that's more comfortable, softening the gaze. And take a moment to drop into the body, feeling your feet on the floor, feeling the weight of your body being supported by the chair. Let's linger here silently for just a few moments. I invite you to feel the presence of friends, family, and other guests in the room. You may notice the felt sense of others who are not physically in the room. Noticing the sound of breathing, perhaps feeling warmth, the gentle rustling of sound of small movements around you. Recognizing now the energy of love, of kindness, and of compassion that permeates the room. It emanates from you and is received by you. You are enveloped by kindness and compassion. There's no need to do anything special. The open heart knows what to do all on its own. Now slowly coming back out of yourself, opening the eyes if they were closed, and perhaps looking around the room just to reorient yourself. In closing, I offer you these reflections on the truth of our interconnected nature, not to talk you out of your sadness or other difficult emotions when they are present. Rather, these reflections are an invitation to remember. To remember we are interdependent and interconnected, and that the invisible web we are a part of is always there. When we remember we are connected to each other and indeed across generations, it can provide us with the strength we need to turn towards our sorrow instead of turning away, rejecting it, or stuffing it. It is through our fundamental connectedness that we find strength. The power of the invisible web helps us stay with sorrow so we can give it the attention it needs to heal. And I actually kind of included the moment of silence in what we already did, so we're going to actually go to the next segment of our experience here together.